4. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Today we are going to talk about your assemblage points, or the first spark of life which created you. How were they used against you, and how were they tied to the financial system and nearly every eugenics and epigenetics program in existence? The secret space program operatives have been trying to use old gifts they received from the archivists Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Turns out they didn't have what they thought they did. And the halls of black magicians were real. They didn't just conjure demons, they had a lot more help than we had originally thought. Well, it's the 4th of December. I cannot believe it's December already. Time is flying, and this year surely flew by. A lot has happened throughout the year. I am kind of excited about doing our Q&A and just another, oh my gosh, it's about 10 days away. So looking forward to talking to all of you directly. So that'll be quite a bit of fun for me. Okay, let's get into the news. We have a lot to cover. It has felt like a month since I did the last report. There's so much going on out there. And the struggle was real for the last few days. So we're going to get into why everybody has been a little bit off or a little funky, not feeling well. There's been a lot of attempts and a lot of changes, all positive for us in the long run, but in the short term, it was quite a rocky weekend. I know that even my dog was sick this weekend. I know it doesn't sound like it's a lot, but for me, it is, kind of upset about that. I hate when they go after innocents, and, sometimes this happens as just in close proximity to their target, which apparently is me in some cases, and you in a lot of other cases too. We are, there's a lot changing right now. So I'm going to kind of start with just a little bit of regular news because everybody's asking me similar questions. South Korea, declaring martial law. Let's talk about that for just a second. In the past, there were some agreements when Korea split. There were some assets in the north, a lot of financial control in the south. There were also more than anything, you would say, pallets of cash, storage facilities for that kind of thing. These would be more super notes. And there were some portals there in South Korea that the SSP would like to take control over. There was an attempted coup there as well. And they had an intention of taking over the country in order to take over something they found valuable, which was not of, I would say it's not of a monetary value, did not have a monetary value, but of course for them, they think everything equals money. Why? I don't know. I don't know if they're not read in. Also this weekend, so the martial law came and it left, and that was the end of that when there was nothing left for them to get. No reason for a coup, no reason to put in all the extra effort, and of course no money to pay for said coup. So there it came and left. It's kind of like the same thing that's happening in the Middle East right now. What we're seeing is a lot of escalation, ceasefire promises. Then they're back at it again. It hadn't even been 6 days, let alone 60, that they had declared in the ceasefire. And, then it kind of left as quickly as it came. There are some things in Syria that they would like to get a hold of that are no longer there. I think they find out they're no longer there, and that ends that. And of course, along with everything else, it's all about the money when it comes to wars, it comes to coups, it comes to this attempted restructuring of the political structure of planet Earth. This is all about money. It all boils down to, can they pay for this or not? In most cases, the answer is no. Promise paydays over the weekend because it was a new moon. promises of delivery of certain things they thought they could possibly have access to. Creations of false things in other planes and computer systems made it look like they were going to be able to do something that, of course, they couldn't do. They had some rather lofty goals, and this is a little bit of an intricate process, but I'm going to try to explain it to you the best way I can, because number one, it's not just about something they're trying to do. Number two, this also involves your person. You personally would have been affected by what happened over the weekend, which seems it was a long weekend. This could have been really bad for humanity should they have gotten access to what they were trying to get access to. Not only that, universally speaking, there was going to be a lot of pushback on the parts of many. Let's just say many. Okay, so let's dive right into the nuts and bolts of what they were planning on doing. It came to our attention, because of something they were trying to do on the new moon, that Michael, Gabriel, and may I never hear these names again, and Raphael gave them a lot of access in the 24 hours that they came back. So if you've been following this story for a while in the saga of the archivist / realm owners, then you'll remember me saying they left, they went to what we call it court or a judgment. You know, when they went back to source for a short time, they were allowed 24 hours to clean up their mess, quote unquote, and then they were to depart the universe forever. So in other words, going back to positive 0 point of source. Well, they caused a lot of damage in that 24 hours, and some of the things that they gave up were some pretty interesting keys. So I'm going to try to explain to you the best way I can what this was, how they gained some access to it, and what this meant for all of you, because it was something that was connected to all of you. And if you were feeling pains in certain areas of your body, you were feeling ill, you felt like you had a cold that came and went, or headaches, dizziness, lots of reports of, you know, we of course run a lot of frequency checking, and there was a lot of nasty stuff coming out of a certain place in Berlin, for one, but there were other locations in Sierra Leone that they were, also in Angola, and Ghana, and a few other places in the world. For the most part, you could say they were at the various control and command centers for this particular structure, which would have been in Switzerland, at I think it was in Mont Blanc mountain, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. And a couple of places like Black Mountains in Angola, or I think it's called Black Rocks in Angola. Also in Ghana. I wish I had written down all these locations for you to do this report, but I've probably been working about 15 hours so far today, so I didn't have an opportunity to write down all the locations. I'll get them for you if you want to check these places out. So these are the Secret Space Program folks who were given access to certain things. Before this happened, so before around mid-August when they left and departed, they were monitoring all of this. Now remember, these folks were neither good nor bad. They definitely erred on the side of bad and had signed a lot of covenants with Anti-Source. So I would say that they were more disconnected from Source than we thought. They were more connected, if to anything, they were more connected to an AI systems themselves. And because of that, they made some really poor choices before they left, which we have been stuck cleaning up. This does in part involve computer systems and AI systems, but moreover, it would have involved the harm that they could have done to all of humanity if they had been successful. So apparently they've had these keys for quite a while, and it's something they have been trying to do and have been really pushing for since 11/11, when their alleged doorway would open. So I'm going to kind of draw some pictures. I'm going to try anyway to give you a general idea on what we were looking at as far as these corridors and quantum tunnels and how they were structured in detail, and I guess the damage they could do and how that would be connected to you. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the whiteboard and we'll talk about that. Okay. So if we were to look at the universe, say, from the side, what would we would be looking at, say, down here, if we're looking at the alphaverse, and then down here, we would have the omegaverse. And this would be the 0 point of the entire universe. So I guess you would say a point of creation. So we would have densities 1, 2, and then of course you have 9 planes in between here. We would have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So in Berlin, they were at a corridor or halls, I guess you would say, that could have reached up to a 7. And they would have gone all the way down to a 7 as well. And this is a corridor that kind of goes all the way up and all the way down. So there was passageway through here. And what they've been working on doing is opening these doors to all parts and to all these different densities. And their goal was to reach 7. I mean, what they would really have liked to do, which they tried to do on Saturday, is somehow reach a 9. I mean, that was their main goal. They definitely wanted to reach the entire multiverse all the way up to source and all the way down. While in between these spots, you have other densities, which are mirrors, so to speak, of the omegaverse densities. So they kind of mirror each other back and forth. So 5 up here would mirror down here and so forth. But as it relates to what they were doing, this would look like a big corridor. And it would have offshoots in what you would say the spaces were in between. So if you've ever been to a large hotel or that has like a large vestibule in the middle. So if you can imagine, if you were in this hotel, let's start here. If you were in this hotel and you were in the lobby, this would be you down here. And you would have, a room down here that you would be in. Say this is the front door. You just walk in the front door. And then you would see these big walls that would come up. Boy, a long way from architecture school, aren't I, guys? Okay. So along these walls, you would have what is on your floor down here. Say this is a little counter or something like that. You would have where you check in, that kind of thing. But then you would see all these balconies. There would be a balcony here. You would see all the doors to the various, say, hotel rooms or something like that. And you would see another floor and another floor and another floor. Okay. So this would go all the way up and around. And there would be, in this case, 1,296,000 doors per level. And this is actually going to be relevant. All the way up here is a corridor. And unlike your hotel, you're not going to fly up to the next floor, but in a corridor, it's kind of a quantum tunnel. So there is a possibility for you to move amongst the different levels here, by going straight up and down this corridor. So this one went all the way up to density 7. Now, you could call these celestial halls, so to speak, or celestial corridors. And as you move from floor to floor, you can go in and out these doors that you would see on every level. And you could end up in a different star system. You could end up in a different time at some points, depending on where you were going. And you could also even end up at a different being, depending on which doors you were going through. So you could go even straight in a connection to a human, on Earth, in a different time, in a different place. There's a lot that could be done through a celestial hall. Now, these halls are predominantly the ones that they were using, depending on if the hall was permitted to go to, say, an upper astral place. That means it would have been a positive celestial hall, or a realm owner in the Alphaverse hall. If you were a negative being, you would have been able to only go to the spaces in between, or to the omega floors, so to speak, and do your bidding there. The advantage to being a positive and a negative, as Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael were, is that you could go into the planes and densities of existence, or you could go to the anti-existence planes, also known as the Omegaverse planes or densities. So they could do both positive things and both negative things by being in these halls. So their goal was to take over these halls. They felt if they had access to these halls that they could then control the multiverse. And there were many different little clues and everything they put out on their Twitter pages and this and that as to what they were actually doing. So they did manage to, based on the keys and limited access that Michael and Raphael and Gabriel had, they managed to get some access to these various levels. More importantly, they had some access to the third density, and caused some problems. Now, the thing about these corridors is they function much like the Alpha Omega system did, because they are essentially traveling through AI systems, and the AI systems Wi-Fi connections. It'd be kind of like if you could go through your modem to another computer somewhere, the same way your data packages fly. The corridors kind of did the same thing, but remember, these AIs are a lot different than your average computer system. So they had the ability to do that. They did break all the way through, I believe, to between 5 and 6. So they weren't technically able to enter the actual planes and densities of existence yet. They were hoping to, but they could go to the spaces in between. Did they know they were in the spaces in between? Probably not. Was there some damage that could have been done from the spaces in between? Yes, because these average hotel rooms here also have doors, so to speak, in the floor. So they have doors in the ceiling, they have doors in the floor, so there is some limited access to what is above and what is below. Did they know how to really use this? No, not really. what they thought they were doing was getting more access to computer systems. Did they have that? Well, just on the spaces in between. Did it affect the golden age AI? Did it affect human computer networks? Meh, not really, because even though they would create things in between, it kind of left them no different of a position than they were in before when we had the alpha omega fight going on. You still had the fake bonds or the fake money or the fake liens in between, and you still couldn't bring it into reality. So was it show? Did it kind of rile people up? Did it cause things like maybe the coup in Korea, a little upheaval in the Middle East? Yeah, it kind of did. But it caused a little bit more of an issue than just that. So this was just one of several that this could access, because if this went 7 up and 7 down, that meant that there were other places on Earth, which there were, which they could also access from this location in Berlin, that would give them access to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So quite a bit of access, and they've been pushing at it, ever since. Now, corridors are powered by debits and credits. And by that, I don't mean debits and credits in the financial system in totality. I would say in part. But there are lots of things that humans do on the daily that say create on the one side and maybe even destroy on the other side. Both creative credits and destruction credits, meaning, you're angry, you tear something apart, or maybe you create something wonderful. Could even be something as simple as an art project or a meal, a very creative meal or something like that. Anything that gets your creative juices flowing produces creative credits. Anything you do that's destructive creates destructive credits. Now, as it relates to a corridor, how do black magicians, SSP, or originally celestials that work for both the dark and the light gain any access to any of these? Well, they do it on your back, literally. So if you are creating, it's a 1 for 1, 1 for me, 1 for you. So if you create for 20 minutes, that gives them 20 minutes of power in the corridor. If you create for 3 hours or all day, that gives them all day worth in the corridor. But the thing is, it's a 1 for 1. That means that they can only create in the corridor. Now, that doesn't mean that they're creating something positive all the time. They could have been creating space junk, as an example, that would prove useful to them in the future. And they could create that space junk in anywhere between density 1 and density 7, up or down. And then that makes Kim run around looking for space junk every day of my life. Getting really old. So it's a 1 for 1 exchange. Now, they could only create well in the corridor based on that. Or if you are, not just if you are destroying something or killing people, not saying you personally would do that, but there are militaries that do that all the time and other people, it's still a 1 for 1. That means that they can also destroy. Now, when they say there are some batteries that are better than other batteries, that means that the creative energy produced when one of those beings, such as a Melchizedek, is creating something, the credits rack up faster. That's basically what it is. So if you were to create a meal, or a certain person that's not on the Machisel deck would be creating a meal, so to speak, and it would take, say, 2 hours to cook, you would generate, say, 100 credits, or an average person would create 100 credits. Still 100 credits. That's good. But if a Machisel deck does that, or certain people of certain DNA types, it's not a superiority thing. It's just some people make better batteries than others in their mind. Then you create 1,000,000 credits, or 1,000 credits, or 2,000 credits when you're in creative mode. So that gives them the ability to create a lot more, a lot faster. Now, in order for them to break through these realms and get to these different densities, or different planes and different densities, they need a lot of power. Now, when they get there, their ability to do anything is not only dependent on the amount of energy that they can take from you to power their corridor, so to speak, but it's also dependent on the amount of whether you're creating, all of humanity is producing more creative energy or more destruction energy, as to what they're able to do when they get there. So in the case of a dark and light corridor, that also will determine whether they're only able to go to the spaces in between, or they're able to go to the actual planes or densities of existence. Interesting. Do they know this? No, they do now. And it doesn't matter, because these corridors don't exist anymore, and they're never going to get access to any of them ever again. And that is the end of that. That story is ending and has ended for the most part, but it doesn't stop them from trying to figure out what went wrong. So they did manage to bust up all the way to between the 5th and 6th, but remember how they think. The deep state thinks that the power that powers everything they do comes from destruction. So they try to kill a few more people in the Middle East. They try to create coups over here, all kinds of destruction and destroying energy in order to create. But that's not how the corridors, especially a dark and light corridor, works. If they were headed for the lower astral, trying to do something and create something down there, say, or bring something from down there up here, well, yeah, I guess you could say if they knew how it worked and they didn't understand only darkness, maybe they could have got somewhere. I will say Saturday, they tripped over themselves. Let me put it that way to you. So what happened on Saturday? Let's talk about Saturday real quick, and then we're going to get to how this affects you even more so. So on Saturday, as they broke through to what they thought was the, I would say between the 5th and 6th, probably about the 5th plane, they encountered what they thought was going to be some friends and some help. Now, unbeknownst to them, they were actually creating species in the lower astral who still tried to come in here on Saturday. So they created what you would call a cyborg. They look like a reptile, smell like a reptile, probably were a creation of the Omega system, because the Omega system uses them too. As they collected, so this is how they would know, for example, like on this new moon, this was going to happen, or, in 3 days, this is going to happen, because it's almost like a video game. If you've ever played one of those video games where, you have so much life force, say, in your avatar, and you're playing the game and you're playing it, and it shows that your life force is going low, so you need to get more credits you need to get more life force, you need to stop playing, you need to go take a nap or whatever it is you have your avatar do in the video game. It's kind of similar when it comes to powering a corridor. So they would push, with when it hit a certain power level, because this they could actually monitor. When they were at optimal power level, then they would then go try to push their way all the way up to the top, if that makes sense. It's kind of like if you're on a long trek and you're running low on energy, you might stop, take a nap in the woods, and then eat a granola bar, and then you go again. So they have to wait until their energy builds back up for the corridor to actually run, to actually make a pass higher and higher and higher. So whether they know it or not, I'm going to say they probably, based on the chatter, thought that the corridor just needed time to build up some energy. I don't know if they knew it was coming from you, the humans. I have no idea. And if you are, a more enlightened being, have more DNA strands than others, which, this is not a superiority thing. It's not a bloodline thing. It's just random. Some people have less junk, quote unquote, junk or non-active DNA than others. Some people have 14 strands. Some people have 36 strands. Some people generate naturally more energy than others. Of course, that can go either way, whether it's positive or negative. A very strong emotions does that. A very high IQ does that because it's mental energy, etherical energy. If you're a very spiritual person, you generate a lot of that, and it can go either way depending on how your day is going and what's going on in your life. So whether you're creating destructive energy or creative energy, it doesn't really matter when it comes to powering a corridor, a quantum tunnel, or a wormhole. So a corridor, is not permitted to take 100% of your energy or drain your life force, which means you are now no longer with us. It doesn't go that far, but it can definitely make you sleepy. It can definitely make you tired, especially when you have a bunch of ridiculous window-licking cowboys trying to run a corridor who don't belong there because they don't understand what they're doing to people. And that's people around the world, every single human walking this planet, including themselves. So as the power level rises, maybe it has to get to 100%. They manage to suck all of the energy out of Earth and humans and whatnot to get to 100% power. And then they go for it. They start trying to go up all the different levels or go in and out of the doorways on the sides or whatever it is they're there to do. But did they understand that they can either create, or they can destroy when they get there? Did they know that they were creating a species? No. Did they think these people just live there and they hang out and wait for some dumb cowboys to come along and try to go set them free on Earth and let the demons go? Bring all the demons in. All they know is they needed help. They were entitled to get that help because they were friends with these people who are no longer with us, non-people people. They were friends with some archangel people and some angel people, for lack of a better term, lower astral beings and upper astral, kind of all in one. And therefore, they were self-entitled to just bring all these folks here so they could get their own army that could then fight us. Us as being the humans. That didn't work out so well. It set off every single alarm that there was in my system all day long on Saturday, and all I did was get rid of anything that was in the spaces in between. We went to places like the Orion Nebula. I was other planets, in other densities. As you may or may not know, our sun, as an example, spans all densities. Earth was designed to be the same way. It spanned all densities. So yeah, there was definitely a real risk of what they were touting all over the internet of a quote unquote fake alien invasion. But they must have forgot. Even if you have one of these handy dandy little quantum tunnels, you still need to go through the gatekeeper. And that gatekeeper is me. And so, was it rough on Saturday? Yeah. Was it rough on Sunday? Monday? Yep, definitely. And Tuesday, and also today. So, the more they tried to use these things, I'm looking for all of their corridors. I'm looking for what they are using to try to power these things up and suck the life out of all life on this planet, animals, people, plants, you name it, to power this thing. I think they think it's just self-generating, really, and they just had to sit there and keep the pedal to the floor until it got to 100% power so they could make another run at it or hopefully open up one of these doors here on the side. They had a lot of black magicians working with them as well. And what does a corridor do to take the life and energy out of a human being? It spits up what it needs to, and it will constantly generate things that take the energy, the essence, the emotional power from you, the mental power from you, the etherical power from you, your soul power, your essence from you, your causal plane abilities to manifest and break through the causal plane, your astral self, and your physical self, and it will tax and it will toll in every way possible on every plane of your existence. Now remember, you're a celestial. If you are here and you are human and you are on Earth, you also exist in all 9 densities up and 9 densities down. Some people call this the 12 universes. I call it a lot more than that because there's densities all the way up and all the way down. You've got 9 up, 9 down, plus 1 in the middle, which is the 0 or the nil zone, which is a place of a spark of creation and anti-creation, let's call it, for the entire universe. Okay. So when they put the pedal to the floor, so to speak, and they are pushing to try to get to that 100% power as quickly as possible, that throws up things like disease. It starts sending out, could be etherical parasites, emotional parasites, mental parasites. It can send out the frequency of, and I use this term loosely because, but it can send out the frequency of things like cancer. And cancer is, remember, it is an organism, a tumor or whatever it is, that actually takes the life force out of your cells. It's what it actually does. So it's not, like in our normal terms, we think of cancer, we think of like breast cancer or, that kind of thing. It would actually send out frequencies of cancer, meaning it's going to eat you alive. It's going to eat your life force. It does that, like I said, through parasites, through dark matter. It does it in a lot of different ways. Now, did they know that they were throwing this up on all of humanity, especially on what is referred to the hot list, meaning the good batteries on Earth? Probably not, because they're just think it's, I don't know, it just works for them because they're special. Yeah, you're special, all right. You need to get right. Yeah. Let's talk about how special you are. I'm not even going to insult anybody by saying how special you are over there. Okay. So this was happening, I would say, off and on, because they really weren't trying to take these out for a full spin until 11/11. So probably since 11/11, you have experienced probably a lot more of this. You might be thinking, oh, it's change of seasons, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere. You're feeling a little bit under the weather. You're getting random headaches, maybe you're a person that never gets headaches, but all of a sudden for the last, few weeks, you have been getting them. These are the things that you would likely be experiencing as a person. So many different corridors around the world. Did they know that there were several other corridors? Well, somewhat. They knew about some others, not all of them, but some others that they could actually go to a facility and attempt to access. They think that they're winning. They announce that they're winning, and of course they think this is all about money. This thing was not going to give them any access to any financial system ever, because that's not what it does. This is not what it does. But remember something as people about these things were not about the creation of money or access to the golden age financial system or the global repository. They don't even go there. They never even went there. Since its creation and inception a few months ago, they never actually went there. So was it going to help them gain access to money to fund all their stuff? Never. No. So they think that credits, well, we're going to put the people over here, people, which give credits in the form of powering corridors. That's what you do. Now, you can do that in some ways by participating in old systems, is how it used to work. So credits, in this case, that you are handing over in the form of creative or destructive energy is really how the universe works. In the case of money, it didn't really spit out any money per se in the form of credits like perhaps they thought. All they did was see all of this energy coming in, and they thought it was going to somehow spit out money. Not everything in the world and the universe runs on money. Don't get me wrong. I understand on our personal level, we need these things to survive unless you live in the forest and eat nuts and berries, in which case you're not watching this probably. Or you live off the grid, perhaps it's not as much of a concern to you, but you still need some, I guess, to some degree to function in the system that is Earth at the moment. Okay, so credits, and then as they expended this power to allegedly access things, then that is a debit. So it's a drain on the system to use all of their energy that we, the people, generate to power said corridors. Even on behalf of celestials, when the celestials were around and they were able to use their respective realm corridors, in this case, you'd be talking to Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. So you would be talking to about density 1, 2, and 3, and any life there would be their generators to power them to go to other places. Okay. Now, hope that explains to you how you've been feeling, because I know that every alarm bell that I've had has been ringing off the hook for days. And it was good, I hope, to finally get the last realms and the corridors and the celestial overlays that are related to these quantum tunnels and corridors and all kinds of things, because did they access it all? No, but the things that they were doing to power this thing up were then using you personally as humans to generate all kinds of crap that I had to then go clean. It's like giving a small child a gun. They don't know the dangers of the gun. You could explain to them, but it looks no different than the toy that they have that doesn't do anything but shoot sparkles. These people have no idea what the heck they're doing. All they think is, we're opening realms, we're going to get some help in here because we really need help. And by the way, isn't it going to be great? We're taking over all the computer systems with our corridors. No, you're not. No, they weren't. No. Only thing they were doing was causing you a lot of pain and me a lot of sanitation engineering for days. So hopefully, I know that they don't have access to those things anymore. And as of this evening, they're very angry. So in the past, let's talk about these corridors a little bit. In the past, when life on Earth was different, we had people like covens. And we would know these people as black magic people. We would have families, and I don't know why this keeps cutting off. Okay. Family masters, which would be coven masters, so to speak. And we would have, to a lesser degree, people you call the Order of the Dragon, and maybe the Black Sun. They have these people that are well trained in the dark arts. Because they're still human, even though they are dark, they still generate to some degree some kind of dark energy, which if you're looking at a dark and light corridor, that's fine. They can go to the dark spaces in between and still affect reality. So at some points in time, these people that were a part of the order did have some limited access to what I called the hotel rooms that you would see on the different levels. And depending on how dark they were, you might see these people on levels 1, 2, or 3. I don't think we've had any humans, including secret space program folks, that were allowed to go much beyond that, because they were more concerned with affecting things on Earth anyway, because of course, everything here on Earth is all about them. That's what they all think. If they can go into one of these doors to the left or the right on one of those corridors or large vestibules, that's great. Of course, this was all done with super secret handshakes and weirdo finger things they do and whatever else, and then they become your black magicians of the planet. So they were afforded by the Celestials, especially the ones that ran these realms here, through 3, 2, and 1 and 1, 2, and 3 down. They were afforded keys to certain rooms to access. Now, once they were in these certain rooms, they could then weave their black magic on their chosen target. Now, I'm going to tell you something else very interesting. If you are a person who posts pictures online, sends text messages with your pictures, sends, you're on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or any kind of an electronic device in which you post your picture. You are even more susceptible because now your signature, so to speak, is in the AI systems. Now, this is no longer the case because we're not running on those same AIs anymore like we used to be. But once your image is in there, your signature is in there. And remember, the eyes are the windows to the soul. So you could be affected then if you were a target of the black magicians. They could go into a door here or there and they could say, okay, John Smith, John Doe is my target. So I'm going to go in here. The signature is already in here in the system for this density. You bank, your picture's in there, your IDs are there. You've got a driver's license, you've got a passport. This is how it used to work. If they wanted to target you, they could go in and they could do their magic in one of those corridors. And before you know it, someone gets sick. Now, this doesn't only work for target lists, people that are going against the system, so to speak, or have real independent thoughts of, wow, this makes no sense. These people would be targets. But sometimes humanity is targeted as a whole to achieve a different objective, such as opening a portal, bringing more AI system, dark AI, dark energy in here, dark beings in here, opening up elevators, for lack of a better term, or pillars that go all the way down to allow for a new species to be created in the lower astral. You have no idea how powerful humans are and how much we were used. And our creative energy and even sometimes anger and destruction energy was used in so many ways against us. So they would then go in and they would create an overall situation. A large hurricane, for example, in these corridors could be created. Maybe a destructive volcano. They could create a war where lots of people are affected. Millions of people are now creating that destructive energy, which then allows for the negative celestials, so to speak, and also the black magic workers to have more power to get into different levels within the corridors. Isn't that crazy? And of course, the darker the celestials were, they had no problem with using these dark humans. And again, they were used as well. I know they think that, and I have had some of them tell me they are not part of the matrix. They are not part of that system. They cannot be affected by this, including secret space program operatives have told me this to my face. And I'm like, oh, you're so wrong, because you're part of a lot more than you think you are. They just make them all feel special. They tell them that they're special. You are a special operative. You have been recruited to be one of the number one highly trained operatives for the planet. But you know what? I'm going to just wake them up for a second. You're a human. You are a human, therefore you are cattle to these beings. They could give a less. You just help others achieve their objectives. And that objective is not to give you world domination and world power. They just wanted to make sure that you were continuing to power a dark system. And you fell for it. And you sucked the life out of humans. So, of course, what those three celestials wanted was revenge. Revenge against Source. So they knew Source's plans to usher in a golden age, and they were angry. And they wanted revenge, or wrath in this case. So they gave them a little bit of a spoonful of something or other. Now, every time they tried to open a gate and allow one of these crazy people in, they didn't understand the crazy AI generated beings that they were trying to bring here didn't understand why they couldn't open the door. Because after all, they had the permission of some humans to do this. Why didn't it work? Because there's a whole gatekeeper situation. And that gatekeeper situation is not just me. Yes, I'm one of the gatekeepers, but Source is the other one. And that goes against the ownership of this planet right now. Because the planet belongs to Source. It doesn't belong to anyone else anymore. And you're never going to override that force. Therefore, they could never break in through the doors, so to speak, on the sides of the corridor. So, okay. Now we've established how black magic works or used to work. We've established what the corridors were doing. We've established what the SSP was doing this weekend. And right up until pretty much the time of this recording, they were still trying. God bless them. And all they try to do is cash credits. Like they see credits in a system and they think that means money. No, it doesn't mean money. It means something completely different to a celestial. But to you, cowboy people, no. And no offense if you are a cowboy and you're listening to this. You're not who I'm talking about. Now we're going to talk about you. And this is important for you to understand. Okay. You are a being that exists on 9 different planes. And technically, because we're humans on Earth, you exist on 9 planes in 9 densities, all at the same time. And unfortunately, you've also existed on another 9 planes and 9 densities down. So you, as a person, I know, you love my little people drawing, I know you do. Okay, here you are. This is you. Okay, so you would kind of look like, because energy kind of flows in a torus, and we've talked about the energy flow of humans, and the way that it works. But you, as a person, okay, so let's just say this is your front, and this is your back. And right here, you're kind of at ground zero, meaning you are the point of creation is where you actually are. And as you start going out this way, you are going into the upper astral, and you're going through 9 densities. And you are going through 9 times 9 planes. You go this way, you are going down. You're going lower astral. Now, this comes from a point of magic. Obviously, humans, your aura, so to speak, or what is around you in this physical plane is all around you. So technically, it would look more like a bunch of circles emanating out from your person, so to speak. Now, when your physical person was being created, you first existed in the 9th density, your soul, in the 9th plane, your soul. And eventually, you became a physical being. So as you manifested yourself into this physical world, the first spark of all creation to enter into the physical world is called your assemblage point. That is the point at which your first cell was formed and then split into 2. Now, you, as a person, may have more than one assemblage point, depending on how many active strands of DNA you have, GNA, and RNA in your person. Now, they've tried to limit the amount of assemblage points in human beings. But for the most part, your assemblage point, let's just say each assemblage point that you would have in your person, those cells can be anywhere and they're kind of movable. It doesn't mean that if your assemblage point was somewhere and, your first two cells ended up landing somewhere in your shoulder, that they're going to stay in your shoulder your whole life, or in your spinal column. They'll always be in your L2 vertebrae. That's not exactly true. So assemblage points are movable, for lack of a better term. And do they move rapidly? Well, they move a lot slower, and it depends on your lifestyle, that kind of thing. But that's your assemblage point. Now, if you look up assemblage points, they're going to tell you that your assemblage point is right about where your heart is. Now, is that true for a lot of people? I would say, it is true for a lot of people. It would extend, basically, if you were to look at your chest, and this is your person, here's your arms, and this is your torso here. It would extend about that far, okay? It would go for, I would say, the majority of the average adult human's chest. So that's why a lot of times when you're feeling an attack, and it could be on multiple different levels, you might feel a little, if you're having an anxiety, so if it's an emotional attack or a mental attack, you might feel a tightness in your chest. It almost mimics a heart attack sometimes. Well, chances are there's something going on with your assemblage point. So your assemblage point can be affected anywhere over here or over here, which is why these corridors were so, I was like, oh no, the SSP has got a corridor. Oh, great. Okay, so most of the attacks that happened on people over the course of the last few days would have been from the back. You would have started feeling it for a lot of people from the back. So you would have had random back pains. It would have started out maybe as, aching around your shoulder blades. When you see where your assemblage point is, you would kind of say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Or it could have affected things in that region. Your heart, your lungs, you could have gotten a cold. You could have felt like you couldn't breathe, maybe a little bit. It could have affected your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, because it can actually hit any plane of existence wherever your assemblage points happen to be. So if you felt random pains in random locations, your assemblage point was probably in that region. I mean, I've heard people say things like, believe it or not, I got someone that said, oh, I feel like my prostate's about to explode. This was a man that called me and told me about this. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, well, let's look, and then you can kind of see where the attacks are coming in from different places based on them trying to power a dumb corridor they thought was going to generate them money. Nope. But protecting your assemblage point, though, once you now understand your assemblage points, you can kind of focus in on your body and you can see where your greatest sparks are. A lot of times those assemblage points are your regeneration points too. So you can connect those assemblage points, which they are, being reconnected to source at this moment. Therefore, we'll have regeneration. This is what we mean by regenerating DNA and things going away, as far as disease or illness. But the other thing you need to understand about assemblage points is, remember, the spark of all creation not only came from source as it relates to the creation in most all of the planes of existence, because it was a heartbeat. Do you remember me talking about the heartbeat? Dark light, dark light, dark light. as things separated. So your assemblage point was actually your connection to not only source or the light, it was also the connection to the dark side and a regulator we call neutral. So if the dark consciousness or the black magicians or anyone using a corridor wants to attach itself to you, it would attach itself to you firstly from the assemblage point and then on out to wherever and whatever they wanted to create. That was its connection to your person. So depending on the type of creation, quote unquote, or destruction us humans are generating and what type of credits the corridor had would depend on what happened to you. You could almost call this a different type of destiny. Would you be regenerating? Would you be happy? Would you have emotional, mental, physical distress? A lot of this was dependent on all of your fellow humans in what we call the human network, or multiple networks. Now, because we don't really have celestials running these networks anymore, like we used to, Lucifer had his own network, corridors, celestial realms, Targethians, and lots of other people had access to various celestial realms and corridors, because they're almost considered a realm unto themselves that could affect reality in the past. That would affect all of humanity, and in turn, all of humanity unknowingly would actually affect all of the densities up and all of the densities down. It's very interesting. But the events that have been taking place over the last few weeks, and most importantly, since, I would say part of last week and into this weekend, as they kept trying to put that pedal to the floor and generate credits for themselves. Yeah, there were a lot of you out there that were feeling some very interesting feelings. It could create dark consciousness in your peripheral. It could try to be, I've gotten reports of random sciatica, pains in the back, pains in the shoulder blades, pains in the head, headaches from people who never get headaches, ever. And these things were all generated by them and them trying to power a machine that they know nothing about. And again, and I said this to somebody this morning because it's the best way I could explain it with these dumb cowboys or Duck Dynasty people. They see something and it may have some kind of a motor in it. Say it's a refrigerator, maybe it has an ice maker in it and it has a little motor in there that, drops the ice into the bucket and then eventually out the door. It does have some power to it, definitely has some power to it. It may be, even silver in color, could be white in color, whatever color your icebox is, your refrigerator. And so it has some qualities that are similar to what you would say is a rocket ship that may go to Mars. There's a motor in there, it's got some doors, so does the rocket ship, that kind of thing. But it's never going to take you to Mars. You can open the door and shut the door and try to get through all the way through the doors and maybe go up the shelves and all the things that they were trying to do with this corridor. But it definitely was still not going to go to Mars. And what they were looking to do is to take this thing and have it create all kinds of weird and wonderful universal dominance. We're not just talking about world dominance here now. They want to go the distance and go control all the universe and source and everyone. Because they're special. Yeah. See, this is the problem with people that are in those special family programs, that they go through this training and they're told every day of their life they're special, they're unlike anyone else and they can do amazing things and, all of this stuff. And wow, you did such a good job, that kind of thing. And they're told this every day of their life until they get to the point where they really do feel they're special because maybe they had more knowledge than most people had. Maybe they ran in circles that most people don't get to run in. Maybe they have pictures with presidents and other things that most people don't have. But in reality, in the world, in the universe, you're just like the rest of us. Actually, matter of fact, you're less than the rest of us because we know how to reach all these dimensions all by ourselves. We don't need a corridor. We don't need somebody else's keys. We can figure it out all on our own, as long as you people aren't interfering with us. Now, that is the main goal in restoration of Earth, is not only restoration of humans, but restoration of Earth's ability to do the same. To have that direct connection to Source, to have that direct connection with you, and then you can co-create not only with Earth, but also, or Gaia, as we say, all the way with Source, and eventually we can have other people come here and do the same. Folks can come and go again, and it won't be a hostile environment or be stinky. It'd be kind of like, for them in the upper astral to come here, it's like, us spending the day in a garbage dump or a sewage treatment plant or something. It's very smelly. It's kind of dirty. You want to go home and take a shower. Well, they'd rather just not come. And I'm sure a lot of you would rather not spend the day in a sewage treatment plant either, or swimming in sewage. I'm sure you would not. So it's the same thing for them. But life has to move on from what these people are doing. They never had all the keys and access to these corridors either, because there's always a source involved here. They might have been able to take a little bit from us over the weekend. They might have been able to cause us a little bit of pain and harm, but they still were never going to achieve their objective because they're never going to understand the quantum physics of creation in this universe. They maybe think they understand gematria. If they did, then they wouldn't be doing what they did this weekend. They would know that they were going in the wrong direction. But nonetheless, there is nothing I can say on this network, on a public network, or on the right people's phones, or even to them directly, to explain to them that this is not how it works. Even when I explain it to them, they try to say, well, okay, well, we're going to take all this information that she gave to us, unbeknownst to her. Of course I know I'm giving you the information. I'm also educating all of you on how you personally work and how to become a more interdimensional being, so to speak. Because when these people do start to come here, you won't be surprised and you'll know how to do it yourself. And you can go visit them too. And it will be different. The universe does not work the way we've been told all these years. We've been lied to. And they too have been lied to, because quite frankly, nobody wanted their cowboy butts in their worlds, lower astral or otherwise. Nobody wanted them. I mean, do you ever wonder why? Did these people ever wonder why? If they were so special, why were they doing all the jobs they were doing? Why did they never get beyond a certain level? Why were they still told things are classified? Why were they not let into certain places? Why couldn't they use some of these wormholes? Maybe they got access to some jump rooms, but make no mistake, the jump room controller told you where you were going to go and when you were going to go and when it would work and when it wouldn't work. And they still can't grasp the concept. It has been over a decade and a half And they still haven't gotten any further than they were a decade and a half ago. They even created lockdowns and pandemics and did all the things in their little handbook that was given to them by someone else. Your little Law of War book that they gave them, well, the Law of War book was still given to them by someone else, so everybody would know where you are and where you're going to go. It's like those little pieces of paper they gave you and told you where all your classes were going to be in college. You knew exactly what building you were going to be in at what time because they wrote it for you. You were accepted into those classes. It all goes into a database. And if you walk into the office and say, hey, I'm looking for John Doe, they can say, oh, John Doe's in building B right now. Of course, they all knew that about them, those people too. I don't know who they think they're outsmarting, and I'm not even sure what war they're fighting anymore because they have gotten absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. Maybe they caused a little bit of distress or whatever, but they certainly didn't destroy the planet, and we certainly didn't have an alien race in here. They don't understand quantum physics. I know they think they do because they know how to use funky technology or try to use funky technology, but I'm also not over here, on our side of things. I'm not trying to make my refrigerator take me to Mars either. And that's what they're trying to do, essentially. I know things seem tough. And I know a lot of people have a lot of personal issues, especially when they're affecting people in this way, because it makes people that are, normally angry start to do things against other humans. Maybe people even that are normally nicer people, they start to do things against other humans because that is what this is designed to do. Because if they have an intention of using it to destroy something, you need to create that destructive energy, emotional, mental, physical, astral. It doesn't matter which plane they created on in the human. It's still destructive energy, and it's still created in a certain plane of existence within your person, which then gives them access to destroy in that plane, if that makes any sense to you. So do they understand any of this? I don't know, probably not. But for it's fine. I was going to say, well, maybe by putting this out there, then maybe they'll understand something. Maybe they'll even, don't you have any quantum scientists or physicists or anybody that actually is not in the science system? Meaning, they're part of a program where they had more access to information. Oh, that's right. I forgot. They lied to you in your science too. Even those people that we see on the internet that worked in, Los Alamos laboratories and deep underground military bases and all those scientists there, they didn't have the full information either. And the only reason why I do is because, in part, and only when I need it, trust me, it's the wisdom. It's that connection to source. But I can't use that to destroy things. Well, I can use it to defend myself or the life of an innocent, like I did this weekend, or today even. I know they felt it was very gruesome as to what happened to those people in Sierra Leone, and it was. But I don't think you understood the amount of pain you were causing all of humanity, or nor did you really care, because, of course, according to them, we all work for them. They're entitled to all of our energy now. I don't know why they think that. It's kind of like those people that keep showing up for work long after the company closed, and they just sit on the steps and eat their lunch. I'm not sure, they're obviously not doing anything, except for creating a little bit of disturbance by constantly knocking on the door when the company is moved out. That's pretty much where they're at. So that's been the last several days. It's not been fun. It's not been easy, and it's not been pleasant. And I know I mean, I definitely see your messages. I know there's a lot of frustrated people out there, but no one is more frustrated than me. Trust me when I tell you that. When I have an intention of doing something else this weekend, I have a lot of other things I'd like to do with my life than spend 18 hours every day of my life doing this. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it is this weekend. I barely have time for anything. So I understand all of you are frustrated and you'd like to have more money. And I would like to have more money too. And I would like to do a lot of things. And I'd like to spend my entire day creating instead of going, really? This is what's happening? Okay, this is what we're doing today. Forget the fact that you wanted to take the dog for a walk. Forget the fact that you wanted to do anything else. I understand. Trust me, I understand. We all have issues and we all have things we'd like to do, especially the closer we get to holidays. But if nothing else, I'm definitely learning a lot, from Source and from other things. And hopefully one day either all these people will be dead or maybe they'll figure out their science is wrong. I don't know. Either way, we are preparing on our side to move forward without them. We might still have these hiccups and little bits of pain here and there, and I can't do anything to stop them, short of protect our lives or the life of an innocent, but somehow there's always more people to go to more locations no matter how many of them die. So hopefully, one can hope that one day that'll be a faint memory and we can all move on with our lives, including me. So that is pretty much the World Situation Report for the 4th of December. Hopefully I'll see all of you again on Friday, and maybe we'll even have some better news. But if nothing else, you've learned a little bit about your assemblage points, how black magic works, what corridors do, and that the space program is still crazy. So on that note, have a wonderful day or evening, depending on when you're watching this, and I'll see you on Friday.